You know that moment, you're in an English conversation, and you feel like your words are just stuck in slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
You really want to jump in, say something.
Yeah.
But by the time you've kind of pieced it all together in your head.
The conversation's moved on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a super common frustration for so many English learners. And today, well, we're going to tackle it head on.
We are. We've looked at a bunch of different resources, materials that offer some really practical techniques.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to help you not just speak English faster, but importantly, with more fluency, more naturalness.
Right. Think of this as like your shortcut to feeling more confident and actually keeping pace in those real-world English chats.
Exactly, because it's not just about, getting the words out quicker.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being able to properly contribute in meetings, maybe, without feeling left behind.
Or sounding assured in job interviews, right? Where those first impressions really count.
Absolutely. And fundamentally, it's just about understanding and being understood, in the natural flow of a real conversation.
The information we looked at really seemed to stress that, didn't it? That conversational rhythm.
It did. Because when there's that noticeable delay in your responses, well, it can unfortunately lead to missing your chance to speak.
Yeah. Or maybe even giving off the wrong vibe, like you're uncertain.
Exactly. That unintended impression. And it does go beyond just being heard. Speaking at a more natural pace, it just projects a certain confidence.
The insights we gather definitely suggest that smoother speech really adds to how fluent you sound overall.
And what's really interesting, I think, is the link between speaking speed and your listening comprehension.
Oh, well.
Well, as you train your brain to sort of process and produce English more rapidly, your ability to follow and understand native speakers tends to get better too. It's like this feedback loop. Pretty fascinating.
Okay, but let's clarify something crucial that came up in the material. Our aim here isn't just breakneck speed, right? We're not trying to make you talk so fast no one understands.
No, definitely not. That's a key point. The goal is faster and clearer speech. Not rushing, not mumbling.
Right. It's finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. That optimal tempo where your English flows, smoothly and naturally, but without losing clear pronunciation and, thoughtful articulation.
Okay, perfect. So let's dive into these strategies. What's the first big one the resources suggest?
Right. The first one is fundamental, really. It's about shifting how you think, specifically training yourself to think in English.
Okay, thinking in English. Why is that so important? Why do so many learners kind of translate in their heads first?
Well, the research we looked at, it points to that translation habit as the main bottleneck. It adds this huge cognitive load.
Right, like your brain's doing double duty.
Precisely. First, you form the thought in your native language, then you have to actively convert it into English. That extra step, that's what creates the delay.
Okay, so the goal is to bypass that internal translator, go straight to English. But how do you actually do that? What are some practical ways?
Yeah, the info gives some really good starting points. One really effective technique is to just consciously describe your surroundings in English.
Just narrate what you see.
Exactly. Anytime, anywhere. You're cooking. Okay, I'm chopping onions, shopping. I need to buy milk. Just simple things. I see a red car. The sky is blue today.
Ah, okay. So you're constantly making that direct link, thought to English word.
Yeah, you're building that mental map in English throughout your day. It becomes more automatic.
I like that. Creating an English mental map. What's another way to build that muscle?
Another really powerful method suggested is having silent conversations with yourself. In English, obviously.
Like a mental rehearsal.
Exactly. Say you're prepping for a meeting. You might think to yourself, okay, I need to give an update on the project. I'll start by saying I have an update on our project.
Mental dry run.
Yeah.
So when you actually speak, the pathway is already sort of there, less pressure in the moment.
Precisely. It primes your brain. And another simple one mentioned in the materials, change your phone language to English.
Oh, yeah. Just switch the settings.
Yep. It's subtle, but it constantly exposes you to English vocabulary, sentence structures. It just becomes part of your daily input without you even trying too hard.
That makes sense. And reading, too, I suppose, social media, news, books.
Yeah.
That helps shift the thinking.
Absolutely. Reading immerses you in how the language is actually used. You absorb vocabulary, grammar patterns, all in context. It just builds familiarity and comfort.
So it sounds like it's lots of these small, consistent steps, yeah. They all add up to help you think more directly in English and eventually speak faster.
Exactly. These aren't magic bullets, They're habits. Habits that gradually retrain your brain away from relying on translation.
Okay, got it. Brain's shifting into English gear. What's trick number 2 for boosting speaking speed?
Right, the next area the resources focus on is using common phrases and sentence starters strategically.
Ah, like pre-made chunks of language.
Exactly. The idea is that native speakers do this all the time without thinking. It lets them speak more quickly, more smoothly. The brain processes these chunks faster than building sentences word by word.
Okay, yeah. The example given was like, how are you? And the automatic, I'm fine, thanks. You don't even think about constructing that.
Precisely. It saves mental energy. So by learning and really internalizing a wider range of these common phrases, you cut down on hesitation. You sound more fluent.
And it's not just whole phrases, right? It's also those useful sentence starters. The materials broke them down by function, which was helpful.
Yes, absolutely. So for giving opinions, you've got things like, I think that, in my opinion. Maybe from my point of view. For agreeing or disagreeing, maybe I totally agree with you, or that's a good point, but, or I see what you mean, but I think.
Right. Polite ways to jump in.
And importantly, for buying yourself a little thinking time instead of just silence or phrases like, well, let me think, or that's an interesting question. Maybe, I've thought about that before, but...
Those are gold. Seriously useful linguistic tools, like having these little ready-made blocks to keep the conversation flowing while your brain catches up.
That's a great way to put it. And the resources also suggest learning specific phrases for common situations, like ordering food.
Yeah, instead of fumbling around trying to build a sentence.
You just know, can I have a coffee, please? It makes the whole interaction quicker, smoother.
So build a collection of these shortcuts, practice them out loud, until they're second nature.
Exactly. Daily practice. That repetition makes them instantly available when you need them in a real conversation.
All right, thinking in English, check. Using common phrases, check. What's the next common thing that slows learners down?
Okay, so the next big one is hesitation, and specifically relying on filler words.
Yes, the classic fillers. They definitely make speech sound slower, don't they? And maybe less confident.
Absolutely. The information we looked at confirms that. They often pop up when you're unsure what to say next, and they really disrupt the rhythm.
So what's the alternative? If you need a second to think.
Pausing. Just pausing. The material strongly recommends consciously using a brief silence instead of filling it with, or.
Really? Just silence. Doesn't that feel awkward?
It might feel awkward at first, but it actually sounds much more deliberate, more confident than a string of fillers. Think about it. I think it's a good idea. Sounds better than, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, okay, I hear the difference. It does sound more composed.
Yeah.
How else can you train yourself out of using fillers?
Well, practicing with time limits is one suggested technique.
How did that work?
You pick a simple topic, set a timer maybe for 1 minute, and just talk about it without stopping, and crucially, without using any filler words. It forces you to think ahead a bit more.
A mini speaking challenge.
Yeah.
Nice. But what if you don't even realize you're using fillers that much?
That's where recording yourself comes in. It can be really eye-opening.
Oh, I bet.
Listen back, and you'll hear exactly when you hesitate and what fillers you use. That awareness is the first step to changing the habit.
Makes sense. And what about those really common questions you always get?
Preparing answers in advance helps a lot there. For things like, what do you do? Or where are you from? Having a couple of key phrases ready means you can respond smoothly without hesitation.
Okay, so it's a mix. Consciously pausing, practicing speaking continuously, recording yourself to build awareness, and prepping for common questions.
Exactly. It's about getting comfortable with those brief silences, treating them as thinking time, not gaps you desperately need to fill.
Right. Okay, we're thinking in English, using phrases, pausing. Now this next one sounds really interesting. Shadowing. What exactly is that?
Shadowing. Yeah, it's a pretty powerful technique described in the resources. Like, basically, you listen to a native speaker and you repeat exactly what they say almost at the same time. Like, you're their shadow or their echo.
So you're repeating instantly without waiting for them to finish the sentence?
Ideally, yes. As quickly as possible. And the focus isn't necessarily on understanding every single word, especially at first.
Okay, so what is the focus then?
It's mostly about speed, rhythm, and pronunciation. You're training your mouth and your brain to copy the natural flow, the music of spoken English.
Like muscle memory again, but for your mouth and ears.
Kind of, yeah. It helps synchronize everything.
So how do you actually practice it effectively? What are the steps?
The material lays out 3 simple steps. First, choose short, clear audio. Podcasts, YouTube clips, movie scenes, whatever works, as long as the speech is clear.
Not too fast, not too slow.
Oh, right. Something at a comfortable speed for you to start. Second, listen and repeat immediately. Don't pause the audio. Just try to say what you hear as you hear it. Even if you miss words or don't understand, keep going.
Okay, just jump in and follow along.
Exactly. And third, repetition is key. Do the same short clip over and over until you can say it fluently and pretty much at the speaker's speed.
Right. Practice makes perfect. What if the audio feels way too fast initially?
Good question. The resources suggest starting with slightly slower audio if needed, and you can definitely use subtitles at first.
Okay. Read along while you listen and speak.
Yeah, and then try it without the subtitles once you feel a bit more comfortable. Gradually increase the speed of the audio you choose as you improve.
In the main benefit of all this echoing, what does it really do for your speaking speed?
It's fantastic for training your brain to think in English more automatically and just speak more spontaneously without so much conscious effort filtering everything. You start to internalize the rhythm, the intonation.
So it bypasses some of that overanalysis.
Exactly. It's a very direct way to improve fluency and speed together.
Cool. Okay, shadowing native speakers. What's the next level up from that? Is there more imitation involved?
Yes. The next technique is closely related. Actively imitating native speakers. This goes a bit beyond just repeating the words.
How so? What else are you imitating?
You're consciously trying to copy their pronunciation, their tone of voice, the rhythm of their speech.
Right.
Even things like body language or mouth movements, if you're watching them on video.
So it's a much more holistic kind of copying.
Exactly. You're looking at the whole delivery package, not just the words themselves. How do they link words? Where do they put stress? What's the overall melody of their speech?
How do you even start trying to capture someone's tone or rhythm just from listening?
By paying really, really close attention. Listen for the ups and downs in their voice, the pauses, the emphasis. If you're watching, notice their facial expressions too. The resources suggest a few steps here too. First, pick a specific native speaker you like the sound of. Maybe a YouTuber, a podcast host, an actor.
Someone whose style you want to emulate.
Right. Second, watch and listen really carefully. Focus on all those details, mouth movements, tone, speed, rhythm. Third, try to imitate everything. Record yourself doing it.
Record yourself again. That seems important.
It really is. It lets you compare your imitation to the original and see where you can tweak things. Are you matching their energy, their intonation?
It sounds a bit like acting almost. Where do you start? Long speeches.
No, definitely start small. The material suggests maybe 30-second clips. Practice that short bit repeatedly until you feel like you're really capturing the speaker's vibe.
Capturing their vibe.
Yeah.
So it's not just sounding identical, but also getting the feeling across.
Precisely. If they sound enthusiastic, you try to sound enthusiastic. If they sound thoughtful, you mimic that. It helps you sound more natural, more expressive, and yeah, often faster too, because you're adopting their flow.
So by consciously mimicking all these layers, you kind of fast track developing a natural speaking style yourself.
That's the idea. You're absorbing the patterns through active replication, experiential learning.
Okay, makes sense. We're imitating like pros now. But what about that big hurdle for so many learners worrying about grammar mistakes?
Ah, yes, the grammar anxiety. The resources definitely address that. It's a very common issue, learners trying so hard to be 100% grammatically perfect that they just freeze up.
Right. Your brain goes into full grammar check mode and everything slows right down. But the point made in the material was that even native speakers aren't perfect. Yeah.
Exactly. That's such a crucial thing to remember. Native speakers make small grammar slips all the time in conversation. They might say, "Me and him went," instead of "he and I went." They usually don't stop or correct themselves. They just keep talking.
Because the main goal is communication.
Precisely. Getting the message across is more important than absolute grammatical perfection, especially in spontaneous speech.
So how can learners kind of let go of that perfectionism and just speak more freely, more quickly?
The material offers 3 main strategies. First, use simpler sentence structures.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, you don't need super complex sentences to communicate well. The example given was great. Instead of struggling with, "If I had known earlier, I would have attended the meeting." You can just say, "I didn't know before, so I didn't go." Same meaning, much simpler, much faster.
Right. Focus on the core message. What else?
Second, consciously focus on communication over perfection. Remind yourself that the goal is to be understood. Small errors rarely stop that.
Get the idea across.
Exactly. And third, practice speaking naturally about everyday stuff, daily. Get used to just talking without constantly editing yourself. Timed exercises help here too, like talk for 30 seconds about your breakfast. Don't worry about perfect grammar.
Just build that fluency, that automaticity. Maybe practice telling simple stories.
That's a great idea too. Storytelling forces you to keep going, to focus on the narrative rather than getting bogged down in grammar rules.
Okay, so prioritize communication, simplify sentences, practice regularly without the pressure of perfection. That seems doable.
It's about shifting the mindset, really. Aim for clear communication and fluency first.
All right, so we've got all these great techniques. Thinking in English, using phrases, pausing, shadowing, imitating, not obsessing over grammar. But are there any downsides? Any common mistakes people make when trying to speak faster?
Yes, absolutely. The resources point out that just focusing purely on speed can backfire. You can make mistakes that actually make communication worse.
Oh, okay. Like what are the main pitfalls to avoid?
Well, one big one is rushing your words so much that you become unclear.
Speed kills clarity.
Exactly. If people can't understand you, the speed is pointless. The advice is to focus more on a smooth, natural rhythm, not just raw speed. Recording yourself helps check if you're still clear.
Makes sense. What's another common mistake?
Neglecting pronunciation. Trying to speak fast with unclear pronunciation, that just leads to people constantly asking you to repeat yourself.
Which completely defeats the purpose of speaking faster.
Totally.
Right.
So the recommendation is work on clear pronunciation slowly first. Get that foundation right, then gradually increase speed while keeping the clarity.
Solid advice. Build the foundation first. Anything else?
Overusing filler words again. Some people think it helps them keep going when they're trying to speak fast, but like we said, it just sounds hesitant.
Right. Pause instead.
Pause instead. And the last big one the resources mentioned is not practicing in real situations.
Practicing in a vacuum doesn't translate.
Pretty much. You need to take these skills out into the real world. Join conversation groups, practice with friends, talk to people in shops, even just talk to yourself in the mirror pretending it's a conversation. Low pressure situations first, maybe.
So it's a balance then.
Yeah.
Aim for speed, yes, but don't sacrifice clarity, pronunciation, or natural rhythm. And practice in actual conversations.
That's the essence of it.
Yeah.
Integrate these techniques into your actual communication.
Okay, fantastic. We have the strategies, we know the pitfalls. How do we actually make faster speaking stick? How do we make it a habit?
Yeah, this is crucial. A consistent daily practice. Every resource emphasizes this. It's the regular effort that makes the real difference long term.
So what kind of daily exercises are we talking about?
4 key ones were highlighted. First, that 1-minute speaking challenge we mentioned.
Right. Pick a topic, talk for a minute, no stopping, no fillers.
Exactly. Recording it is super helpful to track progress. Second, shadowing. Even just 5 or 10 minutes a day makes a difference to your rhythm and flow.
Okay. Little and often.
Third, speed reading aloud. Pick a short text, read it out loud as quickly but as clearly as you can. If you stumble on words, repeat them.
Interesting. Reading out loud for speed.
Yep. And finally, just commit to 10 minutes of actual English speaking every day. Talk to a friend, record yourself answering a question, talk to yourself about your day, anything.
Just keep those speaking muscles active.
Exactly. That consistent exposure and practice trains your brain to respond faster in English.
So a mix of focused drills like the 1-minute challenge and shadowing, plus more general practice like speed reading and just talking daily.
Yeah.
Consistency is the magic ingredient, it seems.
Absolutely. Short, regular practice beats long, infrequent sessions every time.
This has been super insightful. So just to quickly recap the big ideas for speaking English faster, it's really about thinking in English.
Getting that internal process right.
Using those common phrases and sentence starters as shortcuts.
Yeah, those linguistic building blocks.
Consciously pausing instead of saying, or
Competent silence.
yeah, doing that shadowing technique, echoing native speakers,
For rhythm and flow.
and then actively imitating their whole delivery, tone, rhythm, everything.
The full package.
Plus, not getting too hung up on perfect grammar,
Communication first.
avoiding common mistakes like rushing or unclear pronunciation.
Finding that balance.
And the big one, consistent daily practice.
That's the key that unlocks it all. It's a great summary of the insights from the materials we looked at. It really is a well-rounded approach.
Okay, so now, for you listening, here's a little challenge. Pick just one thing from this deep dive. Just one technique.
Yeah, maybe it's deciding to consciously think in English on your way to work tomorrow.
Or maybe it's trying just 5 minutes of shadowing later today. Find one small thing you can start doing right away.
And maybe take a moment to think, where in your life Would speaking English a bit faster, a bit more confidently, make the biggest difference?
Yeah, picture those situations, meetings, chats with friends, interviews. How could using some of these ideas change those interactions for you?
Keep practicing, keep experimenting. You'll get there.
Absolutely. Keep at it, and we really look forward to you joining us for our next deep dive.